Welcome to Inside Design with Kandrak and Cole, hosted by two nationally published Atlanta interior designers, Joanne Kandrak and Kelly Cole. These energetic women are also world travelers, charity givers, and bloggers with a wealth of information to share and stories to tell about the interior design world. Okay, now just a warning, this is going to be fun and not too serious. After all, they still do have an interior design business running at full speed.
Hey everybody, this is Inside Design with Kandrak and Cole. We are on episode 69, and today it's the Color Forecast 2020 with our guest Sue Wadden, who is the Director of Color Marketing from Sherwin-Williams. And Sue was a guest with us last year when we talked about the 2019 forecast. But what is so great is that particular episode was one of our most downloaded episodes of all. So we are thrilled that she decided to come on with us again and to talk about the 2020 color mix, because there's some interesting colors in this one. Hi, Sue.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me again.
We talk about that show all the time. When people are like, well, I don't really listen to podcasts, we're like, well, you should listen to ours because we have people like Sue Wadden on the show.
You guys do such a good job. I'm just excited to be here. This is great.
Well, thank you so much. Okay, so for whoever didn't listen to the last one, which you should go back and listen to it, but just briefly, Sue, tell us your background and how you became this Director of Color Marketing, because I think it's a great story.
Yeah, so I've been at Sherwin now this December. It's 21 years, which is pretty unbelievable. And I was an interior design student at the Cleveland Institute of Art, and I sort of stumbled over this internship in a department I'd never heard of, which was color marketing. And I got a design job in that group, and now it's 20 years later, and I'm the head of color for the Sherwin-Williams brand, which is pretty awesome and kind of nuts, kind of just an unexpected path.
Speaking of unexpected, I have to tell people on the last podcast, and I did not know this, but I was just really curious to know who named the colors. And so when we asked you, and you were so funny and said, well, there's this person, who works for Sherwin. Her name is Sue Wadden. So whenever I see these color names, I'm like, how the heck did she come up with that one?
What was she doing that day
that she came up with that?
It's so much harder than you think it would be too, which is just a funny conversation. Maybe we could have it another time.
Okay. So the Color Mix Forecast 2020, when does that actually come out to the public?
So in June at NeoCon. So we do the development work through the spring season, and then, NeoCon's usually like the second week of June, and we announce it there. So it's a great capture of a design audience, and we feel like it's the right time to start talking about next year's forecast.
Yeah, well, Kelly, tell her your story about...
So this is crazy. So my daughter, Riley...
I have a Riley. She's my daughter.
You
14.
do?
I do.
Oh! So Riley works for Selig Developers. They're an enormous real estate developer here in Atlanta, and she works in their marketing department, and she is working on all of the branding packaging for really cool new development that's about to come out in the next couple of years on the west side called Chattahoochee Works. Mm-hmm. And so we're always batting around ideas. She's like, Mom, I have got to put together a color palette for the entire, Chattahoochee Works. I'm like, oh my God, Riley, that is huge. You know what you should do is you should go to the color forecast on the Sherwin-Williams site and really check out all of the new arrivals that they're announcing and the groupings and the combinations, and just see if they incentivize you for your, geographic that you're appealing to for this. And she was like, oh my God, Mom, this is great. Thank you so much.
That's excellent.
It really does help. We talked a lot about in the last podcast how all different industries and businesses rely on these forecasts and these color combinations, from automotive to fashion to especially corporate branding. And it's really become a resource, for us too. And color comes naturally to us, but sometimes...
But not for everybody, right?
So for people that don't even know, what this is, like what the color forecast is and how you have these, these 5 palettes, just give us a quick rundown on how you build this and, how it comes to be.
So sure. Color Mix Forecast is our annual color trend feature. And from year to year, we kind of tell a different trend story of what we're seeing, mostly in interiors. And that encompasses, wooden finishes, materials and textures. And we build this great big global viewpoint on what's going on in color and design, specifically for interiors. And then Color Mix becomes the vehicle for how we tell that story. So for 2020, which we'll talk about here in a minute, it's all about wellness and health and living well into 2020 because it's this great new decade, which everyone's excited about. But, that's a little bit of a different story than what we told last year. So that's the fun of Color Mix. That's how we sort of bring it to life. But the basics of the system and the forecast these are trend colors. So these are colors we're seeing at design shows in Europe, Asia, Latin America, North America, and it's sort of a curated viewpoint on the key colors and directions that designers are going to see in materials and products. And so the idea is we get this information to professionals kind of before the bell curve for homeowners. So say, we'll just talk about our color of the year, which I'm super excited about. It's navel, which is a beautiful navy.
Yes.
We've used it a few times. I love that color. I love that color.
It's such a good color. But this is an interesting point of view on color of the year, which a lot of people don't understand. GE is actually launching appliances at KBIS that are navy blue. So we knew it was going to be a strong directional color for designers, a color that people were going to be seeing, and not just in wall and home decor, but appliance manufacturers are adopting this color. And that's
a lot of cabinets.
Really, definitely.
Kitchen cabinets and navel. Oh, yeah, the best.
I've seen a lot of islands and things like that being done in that navy blue. I love it.
But what that tells designers is this is a strong color. For GE to commit to appliance line in a color means that it's almost like an automotive color, that this is going to be a directional strong color for 5 to 10 years. So it's just it's kind of like the behind the scenes, why behind the what's of a forecast and why it works. And that's helpful for designers.
That is so interesting because I don't know how we would ever know that unless you told us that inside Skinny.
Right.
So walk us through. So we've got 5 new groups to pay attention to: Mantra, Heart, Alive, Play, and Haven. And I'd love to hear other, anecdotes like that of how these colors, how you found them to be so important.
So we have this meeting. Can I talk about that first? Our forecast meeting and sort of what we do. So every February, our group gets together, and Sherwin-Williams is a pretty big company, and we have lots of divisions. But there's a colorist for each division. So we represent architectural coatings, certainly. Our industrial wood care group, which is like furniture and cabinet finishes. And our performance coatings group, which is like coatings for, KitchenAid mixers and GE appliances and tractors, like a harder industrial coating, as well as our architectural team. So our Latin American group, our consumer brands group, which is retail group. Anyway, all these color teams kind of get together in February, and we talk about everything that we've seen for the past year and what's coming. And we hash out directional color. Like, for instance, forecasters are not talking about gray at all anymore, maybe in subtle ways to weave in where we've been for the last 10 years. But neutrals directionally are getting much warmer, tones of beige and bone and kind of out of the gray realm. Anyway, so little details like that we talk about. And then we look at the Sherwin-Williams palette and we pull out the colors that we think kind of fit that trend criteria and start to build the palette from there. So this year we felt like there were 45 great colors that we wanted to talk about. And then we broke those down into our 5 stories, which are our 5 palettes that were all about kind of wellness and what we want to talk about for 2020 and beyond, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense. I have a crazy story to tell you. We had our Fairfield Chair furniture rep in here just a couple days ago and was bringing us some new fabrics that were shown at High Point Market. And Libby Langdon, who has a new collection with them, all of her new fabrics. And he's pulling this out and we're looking at them. And I was like, wait a minute. So I run over, I had printed all of these, the Sherwin-Williams, the 5 different palettes. And I pulled out Mantra and
it threw up all over that fabric.
It was the exact same.
I mean,
they were all the same colors. I even showed the rep and I was like, is this a a coincidence? Is this strange? And it's like, yeah, it's so right on. And then we had several designers that went to High Point Market, because Kelly and I didn't go this fall, call in. They were all over the country, and they all said a lot of the same things. So I'm looking at the Heart palette, where it's got that coral clay. They were talking about persimmon.
The Alive palette.
Yep. Yep.
Yes,
they use the word bone. They use the word bone a lot, and the warmer.
Yes.
So it's amazing how
you guys got. I mean, it's spot on. I mean, it's unbelievable how your research is just the real thing. I mean, it's the driving force.
And I look at it this way, like, I love this year's. I think I totally agree with you. I think we really were spot on in all the directions. You know, play is one of the kind of outliers. That's the brighter, like more playful palette. And that's sort of there for balance. Those are still important colors. But really the workhorses of this are Mantra, Heart, Alive, and Haven. So I think I feel like great about this direction. And we're a tool and a resource. That's really what it's here for. Designers, like you said, you couldn't get to High Point this fall because life is busy. I couldn't either, you know, and designers are so busy these days, which is amazing, but they need help. They need resources. So I think that's really what my focus of Color Mix is, to just be that like guidepost when you need it.
And the other thing is, it doesn't mean that all of these colors you're going to paint on the wall. For example, a couple of the designers mentioned the color Merlot, which is not, you know, that's not really like my favorite color.
It's very
they were just talking about,
right?
Yeah, like mixing it with blush and like a creamy color.
If you put like Juneberry with Breathless, or you put, you know, then all of a sudden I like it. You know, maybe you mix in a little Angora or a little, you know, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, okay, I can handle that persimmon or that Merlot, which is not my normal thing.
Yeah, so being able to use it.
A few years ago, we kind of made a pivot shift when we were like building our storytelling behind Color Mix, and I wanted to focus on a palette of colors first, and then kind of weave the stories out of that palette. And this is exactly the reason why. So I want designers, I don't know if you have one of our brochures with you that you're looking at, but if you look at the first page, it's a palette page. It's just color chips on a big sheet that designers can like look at and study, you know, and then on the subsequent pages, we tell the story and we group them together, and that's helpful. And that's the fun part and the inspiration. But really that palette page those are key colors. So like you said, you know, Juneberry paired with a beautiful bone white, you know, shiitake or a deep denim blue or whatever that might be. Designers understand how to do that. And that's what that palette page is for. You know, rip it out and stick it on your wall and reference it when you need it.
Yeah, and it's even just like, you know, people are so afraid of color, and so it's so nice to be able to. We got an email from a gentleman who had listened to a podcast that we were on a couple years ago. It was actually a guy in Washington who is a house flipper, and he said that he doesn't really ever have designers on his show to help with, you know, what's kind of out there, what should be, you know, when they're flipping these homes, you know, paint doesn't cost a lot of money, and they want them to use the right colors. So we were on that a couple years ago, and this contractor from, where's he from?
He literally emailed this morning at 8:15, and you won't believe this. He said, his name is Robert Clemson, and he said, I'm from Marysville, Maryland, and I have listened to Tucker's Real Deal podcast for several years. On episode 246, you ladies were his guest, and I listened to that podcast for at least 3 times. I was in the middle of a rehab of a condo, and your repose gray was the ticket. Also, with the to lighten reduce the color by 25% made perfect sense. I had no idea of this trick. The unit was a center townhouse with little natural lights, so it worked. I love the color.
Yeah,
and
that's
great. How great is that? So now he's asking us another question, but I thought, wow, like, you know, like you guide us, we guide them, then they create good product. And it's just, this is why we rely on Sherwin-Williams so much.
I love it. And that's the brand affinity that we really just work hard to be. You know, we I don't know, that just makes me very happy. You made my day.
Yay! Yay! So are there any brand new colors in these 5, or am I just seeing them for the first time because they're combined with they're in these combinations.
This is part of our Color Snap library, our kind of our collection that's been out since 2015. This particular
Isn't
collection.
That funny?
Yeah,
So many of these jumped like Poised Taupe, and we've never used that one. We've never used Tassel.
Angora looks like a really pretty color too. A good neutral.
It's really pretty. It's a good neutral. It's slightly purple undertone, but it's really, really like soft. Mantra's stunning. I love that palette.
Yeah.
So the combination is great.
Do you have favorites?
I think my favorite palette is Haven, and I don't know if I just love the story more than the colors, but I think it's both. So Haven is all about like sustainability and bringing quality materials into the home and in environments that are renewable and sustainable and all about, kind of like healthy living. And the inspiration is like natural colors. So, think sea, sand, earth, sky, that sort of thing. And they're balanced by this almost like alchemical gold, which I just love. It's called Kingdom Gold. It's such a great color. It's a kind of a weird goldy,
it scared me a little bit when I
color.
first saw it, I have to tell you.
Yeah, it's intense, but like as an accent color, it's such a palette cleanser to these like super pretty neutrals. I love that one. But then I like Heart too, because it's unexpected, and I love the coral.
That coral
I'm all
play,
over the place.
That is
really
a cool
like that color.
It's really,
and
really
I love
pretty.
it mixed with the original white.
Yes, and like so those we call those kind of like silky neutrals in that palette. And the inspiration there was humanity and kind of being good to each other and good humans and all different skin tones. And you can kind of see that built in the neutrals. And then this mossy green, which is gorgeous, and coral. It's just a cool combination.
I would have never thought skin tones. That's exactly what it is. I love that.
Yeah, so that was the inspiration. So yeah, if we could talk a little bit about each of the palettes and why we developed them. So Alive was all about like living well, thinking about the things that you're putting in your body, healthy foods and vegetables. And the conversation was, farm to table. That's not anything new, but living well and living your best life. And so the colors reflected that. They're sort of vine ripened. Lots of terracottas, a really soft, airy blue, this beautiful deep green, and then, of course, navel. And the combination together just felt like really rich. And, the theme name Alive is like perfect for that palette. Whereas Mantra was a total pivot from that. And that was all about like spirit and mind, like, creating sanctuary spaces and whatever your spiritual methods are, whether you go to, church every Sunday or go to yoga or you meditate. It was all about kind of cleansing the noise, the crazy noise in our lives out.
It's calming. It's very calming.
It is
very calming.
So simple.
It's beautiful. And so that's where Mantra was. And then Play was about, like life's crazy. Don't take it all too seriously. But for it, and you can see in some of the images, it's not just about bright colors. It's about using neutrals as palette breaks. So white, black, and gray are your kind of monochromatic neutrals, and then popping them in with a bolster of color. So whether that's a super hot pink or a bright yellow or a gorgeous teal, it was like just like have a little fun, which was kind of the theme of Play. Which I don't know if you had a chance to see the full presentation, the CEU presentation that we give. Have you guys ever seen that?
Yes, and that's what prompted me to actually call you last year, because I saw it in a showroom and the rep was there, and I was like, this video was so amazing. I was so just inspired by that video. Watching it was so great, and so I went to our rep and I said, I want to know more about this. How do we get, and she said, well, it's probably Sue Wadden. And so that's how, the video, I think you just see a snippet of the video when you go to SherwinWilliams.com, right?
Yes, you can. So this continuing education, and designers need credits every year for continuing education. Yeah. So we produce this long form, hour-long presentation about the trends. And then we break down for designers each of the trends and talk about the macro themes and the key color directions and materials and finishes, and that kind of all tell the story of each of these palettes. So it's really a unique perspective for designers, because we don't share that with kind of any other market. That consumers don't get to see that behind the scenes.
On the website, you get a quick little taste of it. But I have to ask you before we go to the next color is in the Play palette, what does the word, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right, Auric, Auric, what does that mean?
Auric, I think, so that's an old color name. I think Auric is like almost like an aura, like almost like a gilded essence. I think that's what that word means. And that's kind of that color, which is like this bright citrus, clean yellow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It reminds me of like an old coin or something.
Yeah.
Yes. You know what? Well, hey, Chelsea, if you're listening, can you Google? Let's see if we can find the answer while we're talking. That's why we love technology. So Haven, we talked about, that was, natural hues balanced by this acid yellow, Kingdom Gold. And then Heart was all about humanity, just being good to each other and seeing the best in the diversity of where we are in life now. And, it's a real positive message.
I think when you take a deep dive into each one of these palettes and to hear you explain them, it really emphasizes the power of color, which we talked a lot about in our first podcast. We were talking about the power of color, even in things like, warehouses where people are on a conveyor belt all day long and they're watching the same little widget go by all day long. And when they look up, they need to see something that keeps them alive and, keeps them focused. And I just love to hear the backstories because they're so relevant. And like I said, your research is amazing.
There's a lot of talk about wellness and people, are looking for that, in their lives. Calm,
Definitely, and as we come into this new decade, it's kind of a chance to like wipe the slate and start fresh and think about things differently. Like, the Marie Kondo effect, which we all kind of giggle at a little bit, designers do, but it's legit. Like, I think consumers and designers now are finding, instead of just stuffing a room full of stuff, we're thinking a little more artfully about what we put in. So, what are the right pillows? Maybe you're going to spend $100 more on a real high quality Belgian linen, and it's amazing. But you're going to have it for a long time and it's going to be a meaningful piece. And so I think the consumer side of this and like the mass consumerism that we've seen for the last, 20 years, right? We have a booming economy and that's great. I think that's shifting a little bit. And so that sort of minimalistic approach is definitely what we're going to see moving into 2020. And I just think it's an interesting time in design. Color is definitely reemerging. We're like not so afraid. And
we
living
heard
in
that
this
over and over again from our friends that called in for our High Point Trend podcast.
Yeah, and
they said
I think that's
every
exciting.
showroom was bursting with color.
Yeah,
and we've always been color girls. And I know that there's this whole talk again about this maximalist. And sometimes if you're looking at Veranda magazine or some of these higher end magazines and it's like, a patterned rug, all kinds of patterns, all kinds of stuff on the wall, that kind of like very maximalist look that's pretty in a magazine, but a lot of people can't really live with that.
Sure.
More pattern, more color, not just the gray, black and white, which that's fine with pops of color.
So you want a little sneak peek maybe into 2021?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Random question for you.
Sure.
We talked on the last podcast about, where all your inspiration comes from. And we talked about like the automotive industry and Tesla and did the whole kind of Me Too movement and feminist kind of a revival come into any of your conversations?
It did. So that was really
and if where did they land in the palettes?
So that's Heart. So again, that was the the conversation of like, Me Too and she and looking through the lens of humanity first. But I didn't want to make it like an aggressive conversation. So we decided to take the viewpoint of like, just be good to each other. Right. And I think we all kind of understand what that means. And it's interesting, I have teenage kids now, and they see gender and skin tone very differently than older generations. It's amazing. And so I think that, the evolution of that conversation is going to be something that we're talking about for, the next 10 years about how cool kids are and how they just don't care about those, biases.
Yeah, I think that's
My
we've
kids are
heard.
exactly the same way.
So did I just miss it? Did you say you were going to give us a little peek into
I
2021
did.
before
I
Kelly
did.
asked
I
that
did.
question?
Oh, sorry, I interrupted a very important
Girl,
insight.
don't be interrupting something like
No
that.
kidding.
This is big news.
Okay, back it up. Go ahead. You have the floor.
So we're trying to figure out. So I think this year, 2020 was such a great year. And how are we going to top it next year? What are we going to talk about? And I think we're going to talk about the classics. So the idea of classicism and sort of looking back at like Art Deco, certainly, but almost like Italianate Renaissance designs are starting to peek back in. And I think that goes along with the maximalist concept that we're looking towards those older traditional viewpoints of design, and
more detail.
It's kind of coming back. I've seen some cabinet manufacturers that are putting, instead of shaker or super clean cabinets, they're starting to put some trim detailing back in. So I don't know. That might be what we talk about in 2021.
Anybody, these homeowners listening are probably like, what are you people doing to us?
I know.
You got us going on the gray, but hey, this is what makes the world go round.
Hey, listen, my husband works for Apple, and I'm like, really? He's like, you need a new laptop. I'm like, my laptop is totally fine. Oh my God, it's a dinosaur. Like, it's 2 years old, dude. Like, back off.
I love it. Well, and that's the thing. So I'm about balance, right? So we told everybody to paint everything in their lives gray. And then now we're like, nope, gray's out. No, it's about balance. So bring in warmer neutrals, bring in color and balance out that gray. And, that'll take you into the next 10 years. And
be good to each other and be kind.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Life's pretty great. We should all be appreciating it.
Yes.
So you are all working on 2021 now. I remember last time we just, you guys were all in the thick of it there's no rest.
There's no rest.
Yeah.
There's no rest.
What's so funny is our producer was just telling us before you came on the line that December 13th of 2018 is when we talked to you last. So we're like right at a year.
Right.
So we'll have to put this on the calendar for next year so that we can.
We'll just get older together.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that's a great idea.
Well, it's God, this time goes so fast whenever we talk to you, Sue. But we so appreciate you coming on again. And the color conversation's never over for us. We're always talking about it, and we're always writing blogs, and people love to know. And as a matter of fact, we just rebranded, and we have a brand new website, and we have a pop-up that should be coming up in the next couple of days that are design tips how to infuse color into your house in different ways. So we're always talking about it.
Great. Well, and so next year we have some new colors coming out too. They're going to launch in the spring, so maybe that's something else we can talk about too.
Oh,
great.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
It's
exciting.
so energizing. It's just,
It is. We've got lots of good stuff. So I appreciate the time and keep talking about color. That makes me very happy.
Yes, us too. All right, so hang on. We're going to do our inspirational quote and our funny quote.
Okay.
The funny quote, I'm sorry, Kelly, I have to do it.
Okay, so I'll do the inspirational.
Because as a kid, I was guilty of this.
Okay.
So as one door closes, another one opens. This is me eating the entire Advent calendar. It's such a tease.
because there was a piece of chocolate back in the day behind everyone.
I mean, what a tease. You open that and you get this tiny piece. Like, no, I need more.
Yes,
December 13th,
exactly.
December 14th, December 15th. Okay, now I'm full.
That's hilarious. Okay. Yeah. Now they're all like, a different tea and a different this.
There's an Advent sock calendar. I mean,
where's the damn chocolate, people? Okay.
Right.
Here's our inspirational quote. Instead of hustling to finish the year strong, take a moment to reflect on all that you have accomplished. Thank yourself for all the wins, the pivots, and the growth.
I love it.
Right?
Yep.
That's
Give
great.
yourself
Perfect.
a break and just pat yourself on the back.
Yeah, think about all that you've done in the year. I mean, when you really think about it,
I know,
do
we're
a
so hard
lot.
on ourselves.
Yeah, we're just pushing. So just instead of trying to kill yourself to, make 2019 the best ever, you've probably already done that in the 11 months that have gone by. So
That's right. Think
pat
about
yourself,
heart
Agreed.
and
pat
mantra.
yourself
Agreed.
on the back. Yes.
Love
Okay,
it.
everybody, thank you again so much for listening to our podcast. We will have Sue on again whenever she wants
now
to come.
we have and now it's springtime because now we have to hear about the new colors. So that's completely fun.
So let me know. I will be happy to share all the good stuff behind it. It's great.
Did Chelsea ever get our information for us before we sign off?
Oh, yeah. What's that word mean?
I'm going to, I don't know. I haven't heard from
All right,
her.
everybody, go look it up in your dictionaries. AURIC. First one to respond back gets a prize.
You think I'm
Hey guys, can I jump in here as your producer?
Oh, let's everybody jump in.
I'm gonna bring Chelsea up and see if she actually got that information. Chelsea?
Okay.
Yeah, no, I did, and Sue is right. It's relating to the aura supposedly surrounding a living creature.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah.
she is the woman of the words, so of course she should know.
Exactly.
I have a great idea.
Her vocabulary list is very long.
We've been looking for a way to kind of put something out there every day that people will look forward to. I am going to literally have the Sherwin Williams deck on my desk, and I'm going to go through it. Whenever I find a word I don't know what it is, I'm going to post the color and the meaning of the word. How's that?
Like
I think that
Verde
sounds amazing.
Maroon. What is Verde Maroon exactly?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Verde is green and Maroon, I think, is brown. I think that's right. So I think
It
it's
is a
like the
greenish
combination. It's kind of like a mossy brown.
It's exactly what it is.
I didn't know what Maroon was. I knew, of course, Verde was green.
Yeah. Well, Chelsea,
It's never ending.
Chelsea is Sue's gatekeeper. She's the PR person for Sue, and thank you, Chelsea, for letting Sue and getting her figured out and getting her on the show with us.
And Russ for
Russ.
getting all of our Skype working.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Thanks,
we look
guys.
forward to it. So thank you. Yeah, thank you for thinking of us again. We appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and thanks for listening. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Happy holidays, guys.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Join Joanne and Kelly weekly for a lively conversation about trends, travels to industry events, current design projects, the good, the bad, and the ugly, do's and don'ts, product recommendations, and more. Be sure to follow the fun on Facebook. They're on Instagram at Kandrak Cole, and of course, you've got to visit them online at kandrak-cole.com for more information.